Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody had a fantastic Monday. I have noticed that the guys who are doing really well in this group are the guys who are posting the most and sharing what they're learning. And I really do believe we have a really special community here, and I want to get as much as I can out of it. And I also want to share what I'm learning, and hopefully we can all just, there's, as Mike keeps talking about, there's a lot of different ways to trade the horse, and there's flexibility when it comes to trading the market, right? And you just need to be able to understand what's happening in order to capitalize on those different options that we have. I'm driving a truck full time, so I don't have the flexibility to be constantly looking at the charts and watching for breaks into invalidation zone and candle closes. I'm taking the approach where I'm going 2 hour all or nothing hard stops all the time. I've back tested it a lot, especially this weekend, just hours and hours of back testing, and it is incredibly profitable. Obviously the drawdown is you get wicked out. Today was one of those days where I did get wicked out, but that's fine because there's also there's ups and downs to everything, right? So there's with every different strategy you have to understand the risks, and part of the risk is that you get wicked out when you're using a hard stop. So just want to run through all the trades that I took today, and just the reasons behind them and how I'm looking at the markets. And if anybody sees something that I could maybe put some more thought into or adjust, I would really appreciate the feedback, and hopefully you get something out of it as well. So just a quick overview. Yellow box here is the Asia session. Whenever we're looking at, I know Mike touched on this on the live session today, right? So if we look at Wednesday, Thursday, if we looked at just those 2 days and said, what's our overall bias? We would say, well, up, right? Price is pushing up. There's a big, strong push up from buyers there on Thursday evening. And then on Friday, we had this massive, aggressive push down, right? So if you were looking at this here, you say, well, who's in control? Well, if we just looked at Wednesday and Thursday, buyers, but because of Friday, it just sort of throws a spanner in the works. And so I think Mike's analysis this morning of, we are in sort of neutral price action at the minute. We're between a high and a low, and price is just sort of diddling in the middle here, right? So usually whenever I come into a day to trade, if my bias is long and price breaks underneath, I just won't trade unless we get a flip day, and then I'll take a position long. But because we were sort of neutral today, I was just sort of willing to see where price went and then just follow its lead, right? So one very firm rule that I do have, and I've back tested this so much, and it's like any trade that I ever take that has to break through a key level is just a bad trade. It just never works out for me, right? So I do have a rule that anytime I take a trade, because it is 2 hour all or nothing, I'm not going to close my position early, and I don't want to have to break through one of these key levels, right? So Asia's highs, Asia's lows. I just want to show you here. So if I took a long position here, right above the highs, I'd have to break out above Asia's highs in order to hit my take profit. Ideally, whenever I'm getting into one of these positions, if we can break out above a key level at the same time as breaking out an orb, it just tends to be a much higher probability of continuing up to hit those targets, because usually what happens is we can break out of the orb, we can tap into Asia's highs, and then just reverse back down again, right? And it just happens again and again and again. And Mike and Troy were talking about that as well in the live session this morning. So it's a rule that I follow, that if I have to break through a key level to take a trade, I just won't take the trade. So London session this morning, this is the grey box here that you can see. We just sort of rotated back and forth between the highs and the lows, broke out on each side several times, right? We broke the highs and then we sold off again, and then right as we were coming up to the open of the New York session, we sort of broke the highs again, and then we finally got some volume. New York opened, big push up above Asia's highs, and then that was our opening range. I did get so my first position, we did break and close a candle above. I did let price just push back down just a little bit because I wanted to get closer into that shelf before entering a position. And you can see up here yesterday's highs. The trade idea that I was trading was that price would continue up, probably come up close to yesterday's highs, so Friday's highs, tap into that level there before maybe retracing back down. That was the trade idea, right? So I got into my first trade here. I didn't move my stop to break even. I don't tend to do that very often, because just because we move up towards target and price pulls back down, I don't feel like that invalidates the trade idea, right? So I like to just leave my stop where it is, and if I get taken out, I get taken out. It's I understand the risks, and that's how I like to trade, and it doesn't bother me whatsoever. So we did move up into a little bit of profit. I could have got away with 1% there, but got tapped out, literally just wicked out, and then price continued up again. I was looking for a retracement back down onto the center bands here. That would have been my entry right there. I missed it because I was driving, but I let price rally up again, and then just on this candle here, whenever price pulled back down, I had a limit order placed. I just wanted to get back in here. If price pulled back, I wanted to get back in, and then again we were targeting these highs from Friday, and yeah, price just sort of rolled over at this point. You can see here I have on an indicator which shows price action. So on the 5 minute here, that's a change of character, and then here we have a break of structure, right? So right where I got in was a break of structure as price started to rotate to the downside. I did see all of this happening, but again, how many times in back testing have you seen a change in character, price pushes down and then just keeps continuing up, right? So the trade idea wasn't invalidated. I was aware of all this price action happening here, and then ultimately got stopped out of this position. Interestingly, later on in the day, if you were following this late into the New York session, price did push back up to the center line, right? We had a red center line now, price rotating back down, and if I had have taken the same trade, let me just show you this here, and reverse, right? Say I had taken an entry here, right in around the center line. I think price did actually eventually continue rolling over to, so that would have been a W. But just the way I trade and the way I back test is I want clarity, and I just want like one daily bias, and if price rotates against that, then I'm just done for the day, right? So price broke the orb to the upside, I went long, I held my bias, I went long again. I was wrong twice, I paid the price, it's fine, I understood the risks. And then later on in the day, just because this red center line was here, I do understand that is a position, but just so I'm not over trading and taking too many positions and flipping my bias constantly, that's just a rule I have in place. So overall on the day, down 2%, so 2% overall down in the day. So yeah, come back to it tomorrow, hopefully a little bit more follow through in the market, but yeah, if you guys have any feedback, or if you think I could improve on something, please let me know. I'm here to learn, I'm here to grow, I'm here to get the most out of this I can. Mike and Troy, thank you so much, I appreciate you guys. Happy Monday evening, guys. See you tomorrow.